So in my dress up darling, we meet this guy, he's a cross dresser. And within his story, within his lore of how he, came about actually cross dressing, he's not like he's not like gay or nothing like that, He goes on his story about, when he got a girlfriend. But before that, yeah, he was talking about how his sister, and his family are very open minded about his cross dressing, and I don't think they see it as a threat. You know what I'm saying? And he obviously isn't gonna change his sexual. I mean, not his. He's obviously not transitioning to a woman, right? He's not transitioning to a woman. He just likes cosplaying and cross dressing as gals, which I mean, that's not for me. It's not for me, guys. Okay. Um, But for him, it was just such a special thing for him, and it became a hobby. Cross dressing, First, it was cross dressing, then it was cosplaying as, characters. And so, long story short, he gets a girlfriend. And the girlfriend, of course, it's no surprise. She thought he was cheating on her, having his girl clothes in his room. But lo and behold, he breaks the news to her, says, look, I cross dress as a hobby. It's to him, it's fun. To him, I guess it brings him meaning, it brings him joy. And he ended up just dumping her. It was like the funniest shit ever. Like, W mans, it's like he didn't put a relationship before his hobby. A hobby is very important to have in life. In my opinion, it keeps you grounded. It keeps you just a little bit more, you know, more sane. Even though this world is pretty insane, it gives you a distraction. I forgot what the word is. You know, um, so for me, it was like a huge W just hearing him say, nonchalantly that he dumped her. But at the same time, it's like you don't know where that relationship could have gone. You know what I'm saying? You could have at least compromised, with your cross dressing and. But then again, it's like, bro, he could probably find somebody better anyway. Somebody that would accept him and his cross dressing. So it's not like it's throwing the baby out the bathwater, but he just made a quick decision to be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna dump her. It's like like I said, it was extremely funny when he said that. He had like a big smile on his face. Let's see if I can find a scene with a smile. So right here, he's talking about this is where he talks about his girlfriend right here. This scene, and it's weird too because he could have at least told her, beforehand when he was getting to know her and be like, look, I have this hobby. I don't want you to get. I don't like. He knows he was inviting her to this house. He could have been like, look, you might find this off-putting. I don't want you to get scared. You know what I'm saying? Because she just walked into his room right here. She walked in and then found it. You know what I'm saying? You'd think this would be something that you would probably want to mention beforehand, like with my anime shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be like, look, I probably like anime a little bit more than your average Joe. You know what I'm saying? The average Joe is gonna believe Attack on Titan is peak. Well, it's a good anime, but there's just more animes out there that are that top it. You know what I'm saying? There's just way better. And of course, Attack on Titan is at least top 5, top 10 animes out there. But they've only watched 5 to 6 animes. You know what I'm trying to say? A normie. So, if I would be like, look, I like anime a little bit more, and I have, my collection, that's gonna make it seem like I'm obsessed. And of course, I'm more obsessed than others. But to me, it just seems like, the standard for an actual fan. You're gonna have actual merch, you're gonna have actual collections, you're gonna have, mangas or DVDs. It depends on, where you go in a direction within the niche. You can be a con goer, you could be a cosplayer, you could be a figurine collector, you could have Dakimakuros, you can have a YouTube channel, you could have a manga collection, You could have, you know, 90s, 80s anime collection. You know, a little bit more antique-ish animes. You could just be, you know, a Hindi. You know, who knows? You know, there's just so much out there that's within the niche. You know, you could be obsessed with voice actors, the OSTs, you know, the composers, the companies. You know, there's just so much out there within the niche which you can show your support to the hobby or niche within the niche. So he says right here, I dumped my girlfriend. And then, so how much do you love your hobby? And that really made me question what I'm doing. Like, if I found somebody, would I just be like, you know what? Fuck you, bitch. You know, I'm dumping you. You don't like my hobby? Fine. So, yeah, it's like, but I feel like he should have just mentioned it, right? You know, like when they're getting to know each other, right? It's not like you just find a girlfriend. Oh, you're my girlfriend. Hey, you're going into my house. No, bro, you should have. Then he's there here apologizing. You know, he's ended up telling them the full story, and of course, Marin got really emotional about it because his, you know, ex now, prior to the story, you know, pretty much called him a creep. And, you know, it's just awkward. You know, it's an awkward situation if someone calls you a creep for your hobby. You know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, I like anime. I have collect figurines. Like, and then they call you a creep. It's like, why? It just makes no sense to me. Obviously everyone has their own hobbies. It's like, bro, if you're into guns, I'm gonna call you a creep. You know what I'm saying? Or a mass shooter or whatever. You know, if you're into fire trucks, you know, there's people into fire trucks. You know, believe it or not. You know, there's just a lot of, you know, hunting, sports, you know, you name it, kayaking, sledding, bobsled. I don't know, bro. Like, there's just a lot out there, you know. And so, yeah, guys, it honestly, yeah, if anyone calls you a creep for what you do, not, you know what, fuck it. What he did was right, bro. What he did was right. But at the same time, it's like, bro, I thought you'd think he would mention it prior to inviting the chick over. But anyways, that's all I really want to say. It's like, it really made me think about my hobbies and my what decision I would have made, you know, within that situation. But like I said, this was just such a awkward situation because she went to his house and found out. It's like, bro, why didn't you just say something? Could have just been like, hey, by the way, I kind of got into this hobby and the train is not stopping. I'm not putting the brakes on it. If it's a game changer for you, then look, we're not gonna even call each other boyfriend and girlfriend. And that would have been that. That would have been it. That would have been that. He wouldn't have to have gone through that whole, you know, the whole situation where she calls him a creep.